Welcome to the GLAC studio. This is Gomathi Siva Sankaran, founder CEO, the Guiding Light Art Company, building bright futures through art. We are now in the season 2, 7th episode of the GLAC What Next series, Change Management in Practice. Today we are going to discuss change that is uncalled for, but it does happen at a personal level. How do we cope with certain changes that aren't planned for? How do we resolve and find our way out? How do we enlighten and inspire people through our experiences, come what may? We are going all the way to Florida to meet Joshua Perry, an optimization strategist and healthcare coach, former pro BMX athlete, and a multiple brain tumor warrior. Without much ado, let's get on to the show and meet Joshua Perry, try to understand change management from his perspective. Joshua Perry, welcome to the GLAC What Next series, Change Management in Practice. I am so happy to be interviewing you. There's a lot that I've learned about you since our friend Elena has introduced us, and I see your posts on LinkedIn. It's only inspiring. Every time I see yours, it's so inspiring. Your story is so inspiring. I want to get to know more about you. Before I get into questions, I would like you to open up the floor and just go over about yourself, how you are doing what you're doing today.
Awesome. Yeah. And first, thanks for having me on and for taking the time to chat with me today. And I'm very thankful that Elena connected us and we crossed paths, and you sharing your perspective of my post on LinkedIn or social media in general. I'm glad to know that you have that perspective on being inspired, because that's my intention. For me, I looked at a lot of different people and things in life to inspire my path of where I am today, and that helped me overcome some of my most difficult challenges in life. And I wanted to be a vehicle or a resource for other people to be able to find inspiration to overcome things in their life. But ultimately, I want people to be empowered to look at life in a different lens, or from a different lens, which I believe is the first step to creating change in your life, is to see things from different angles. We often get stuck seeing things through our circumstances, which it may be, with our health or our finances or business or relationships, and we often can't see past it because how we're feeling in that moment traps us there. And so anytime I share something with social media, it's something that I've learned or currently learning and going through. And I just love to be able to put that out to the world, because it's, therapeutic for myself, but then also allows people to know they're not alone, and that maybe whatever they're going through isn't so bad, or it's able to be overcome in various different aspects. So with all that said, I'm a former professional BMX athlete, and along my 12-year or so professional career, I battled multiple brain tumors. Clearly, I'm alive and well today. I'm 3 months out, actually, of having a second awake brain surgery this time, from 11 years from the first one. And that's what led me on this path of seeking out ways to optimize my health. And then that began to transcend into my external reality, and then getting me to on purpose today, which is to help other people, do the same, to become the best version of themselves inside and out. So, that's kind of the long story short of who I am and how Elena and I crossed paths, and then how she led us to connecting each other.
Awesome. You've put it subtly very well. I understand that it's not an easy journey, and some of the changes that you have come across aren't asked for. It happens. Yeah. I want to understand. Go back to your childhood times, and how was your life, and what was your thought process around career? What kind of life that you had wanted or dreamt of when you set foot into BMX?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, because for me, sports was always an outlet for me. Growing up in a stressful environment, and the different types of abuse I experienced, not from my mom or my father, but from a stepfather and some other people in my life. I always found an outlet for that negative energy to be harnessed into sports and physical things that I could do. And so when the questions around career and like, what do you want to do when you grow up and who do you want to be, it just kept manifesting more and more into, I want to become a professional athlete. And it started with the sports I was playing at the time, which was baseball, basketball. And then when I was about 13, I got introduced to BMX, and for my 13th birthday, or it was about 12 or 13, on my 13th birthday, I received a BMX bike. And then that's kind of when all the school sports kind of stopped and went out the window, and my focus went straight on to BMX. And it allowed me the freedom to express myself and to create a sense of confidence in my being. And that's where BMX came in, and it just became an obsession and an outlet for me to relieve the negative emotions I had within me and to put that into something that I could be creative as well. So it was like a creative outlet, but also a form of art for myself that took me many years later to realize that was my form of art. I thought being creative and art were, drawing or painting or sculpting and things like that. And little did I know that I was harnessing all my energy in my own creative way, expressing myself, which ultimately at the end of the day is an art form. So that's how BMX came in. It just started out as something that was fun. It was a vehicle for me to literally travel around to different neighborhoods and escape any negativity I had. And then that transformed over the years into a career, literally saved my life and taught me a lot about my life and how I saw the world and the reality I was creating. And it taught me a lot of lessons that have put me into the position I am today. And if it wasn't for BMX, I believe I'd be dead, because we'll get into this maybe, but that's how I discovered the first brain tumor, was through a TBI. And then an MRI came after the traumatic brain injury, which revealed the tumor I had that I didn't know. So started out as something fun and turned into a career. And that's taught me a lot about life. And it's literally saved my life.
I do see the videos that you post, some of them, showing you bike. Is that you? Oh my God. It's beyond my understanding. I'm not an athlete. I think I talked about it briefly also while we discussed. Then that's something I cannot imagine, throwing your bike around and, making those swings and so on. I'm sure this needs a lot of practice and intense hard work. So I'm understanding that you have put your whole life into this athletics and made it your life stream. And when did this occur to you that you might have a challenge with the brain tumor?
So I was 17 when I left school, turned professional, and it was 4 years after, where it was just a normal day of training, and I had fallen and hit my head, and then that's what led to the MRI, and that the doctors told me that they found a brain tumor that I didn't know about. And I'd been experiencing classic symptoms of a brain tumor for about a year, but kept getting written off by the doctors I was seeing because my physical being was reflecting health as we determine, healthy in today's society. And so that was the first challenge that was presented on that level of actually threatening my life. And that's what opened my mind to perspective. And the doctors were telling me I was able to go through various forms of treatment. They, set out a plan for me. We implemented that plan, and it was about a week and a half or 2 weeks from the diagnosis I received to actually getting the surgery. And it clicked for me that I have a choice in perspective. I can choose to be defined by my circumstances and take the victim role, which is easy to do. It's often what we do as human beings. We're wired to scan for threats, and then we feel those threats in our body as emotions, which are feelings. It's the language of the body, and then that correlates to the brain to trigger us to have thoughts of, what if this happens? What if that happens? And in my case, the thoughts that were coming in was, what if I don't ever wake up? What happens then? And so I understood through various aspects of inspiration, my mom battling colon cancer, being alive and well today, that was one form. And seeing her do something taught me, I can do this as well. Especially she created me in a sense, literally. And then also Lance Armstrong, another cyclist, very different cyclist than me, but overcame a brain tumor as well. Yeah. And so those two people really inspired me to see the situation I was in from a different lens and see beyond that circumstance. And that's what I love helping people do, is by using the lens of my journey, help them gain a different perspective or just see what they're going through from a different viewpoint. And then that's what ultimately taught me, hey, I have a choice. I can choose to be defined by my circumstances, brain tumor, and the thoughts that are accompanying that. Oh, you could die, you could never wake up, you become paralyzed, you can never ride your bike again. Or I could choose to see beyond that and have the thoughts, what will I do when I wake up? How will I present myself differently to the world? How will I live differently in the world? And how will I do things in my mind in a better sense to prevent this happening again and become the best version of myself? And it was that challenge that opened up the possibility of leveraging that to my advantage and moving forward in the way that I've done. And I've utilized that with every other challenge that's come in my life, which in the brain tumor sense, there's been 4 more occurrences. And recently, 3 months ago, I went through a second surgery. And it was just this challenge presented itself with the learning, and the application of that learning is a big reason why I believe that I'm not only alive and well, but I chose to do the thing that created the circumstance that I was in potentially for 11 more years. And yeah, that's the biggest challenge. That's the first challenge that presented the learnings that I've applied and I share with other people.
This is so inspiring. Personally, I have had a family member, my own mom, going through cancer. She had given up mentally. I could sense that she had given up. It was hard to keep her motivated. It is a painful moment for the whole family. But what I could see was that she had mentally given up. Even harder for us because we did not know how to keep her motivated. And I think any listener that's having a friend or a relative that's going through similar challenges would relate to this emotional situation that we are pulled into. And given with all due respects, it's the pain that people are going through, and also the fear, more than the pain, the fear that there is no scope of life anymore. There is no scope of future anymore. How do you think we could, as blood relatives or friends, be better caretakers?
Yeah, so there's a couple pieces there. There's one, how does one overcome that circumstance? And then 2 is how does one from the outside, as a relative or a family member, a friend, a caretaker, support the one going through it? And the second piece of that, I'm going to speak to first. And that's, from my perspective, one of the harder things for me to accept, because me going through the circumstance in my mind is easy because it's my life, it's what I'm presented with, and I know it's just a matter of how I look at it, which is going to dictate how I feel about it, and then that's going to influence how I move past it. So something I've had to overcome is feeling like a burden to my family and my friends, and that's something that this time around was sparked in me really clearly, where I understood, like, I feel like I'm being a burden to those that care about me, because in my mind, this is my life and I have a choice, but they outside, they feel like they're helpless. They have no control of the situation. They don't know how to help. They wish they could, and they feel that themselves. And so for me, giving advice to the external support system, being a patient myself, what I recommend people doing is just to stop and think about the fact that, as cliche as it sounds, the person you care about is still alive. That means there's still an opportunity to preserve that life. It depends on how you shift your focus. And so a lot of people will tend to say, I'm so sorry for your circumstance, or I'm sorry that you have to go through this, or they feel like they can't do anything. And that's understandable. The key is to understand there's still a chance, and to do the best you can to not let your own emotions fuel how you project onto others in affirming their fears by saying things like, I'm so sorry, and whatever it is. And I know it's small talk and people mean well, but being a patient, that's the last thing I want to hear, because I don't want people to fuel into my own fears of what I'm going through, my own circumstance. So the recommendation I can give to anyone looking from the outside in to a person they care about is to just be there for them. Just ask them, hey, how are you doing? Let's talk about it. Do you want to talk about it, or do you want to focus on something else? and having the understanding to shift out of the circumstance and the fear and the emotions that you're feeling towards life after. And that's something that goes back to my first point, what helped me overcome the circumstance that I was in and I found myself in several times since, most recently 3 months ago with an awake brain surgery, which is an interesting concept to wrap your brain around, being awake for a surgery like that, was to visualize the life after, to visualize and to focus all my energy on what life will be like when I wake up and how can I be there for my family, or in my case, the first time I was 21 years old, this was 11, 12 years ago, my focus was on living my dream. It was focused on something I loved to do so much. I became obsessed with it and it made it a career. And that's a fundamental piece that I think anyone going through any circumstance can take value from, is pouring your energy into something, whether it's a hobby, it's a potential dream, it's a potential career ahead of you, whatever it is, something that you can build skill in and progress with, because all those micro learnings of failure and learning from those failures and applying the learning can get you to the next level. In my case, it saved my life, because it's so easy to do what you said your mother did. And that's why I talk with surgeons, is to mentally give up. The fear is so real and so heavy that it's easy to be like, oh man, this is it. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna overcome it. And that's a big fuel of why I share so much and so openly about my experiences, because I don't want people to fall into what could be easily a trap of feeling like giving up. And I've talked to a lot of surgeons that have said, this patient in my mind should have been okay. And they, didn't believe that they were going to be. And then that reflected their outcome, whether it was, they didn't wake up from surgery, or they were just fearful of getting back to, their day to day when they were perfectly capable of. Going through seizures, that's something my neurologist explained. A lot of people, even on the other side of having a seizure and are clear to go back to work or go back to sport or whatever it is they love to do, or they do to provide for their family and themselves, are afraid to, because they're afraid of what happens if this would happen again, rather than focusing on what they want to be true about their lives. So it's easier said than done. But the 2 points I wanted to make was, the first one was being a patient. It's focusing on what you want to be true. And this is anyone. This is a big fundamental factor or concept that I work with my clients on, is focusing your energy on what you want to be true rather than the circumstances that you don't enjoy. That can be the first step, is, this information from the outside is coming in. I don't want it. It's unpleasant. And then you flip it to, what do you want? And you focus on that. You visualize it the best you can. You feel those emotions of what life's like on the other side. And that is what I believe saved my life. Now, the second point is people looking outward in, or from the outside in, caregivers, friends, and families. It's, I have an older cousin who's actually my godfather, going through stage 4 colon cancer right now. And that was out of the blue. He's been healthy as an ox, as the saying goes, for years. He's got a beautiful family. And then one day he was feeling weird, and he went in and they diagnosed him. And I've been sharing with him, he knows my story. And I see my family, and they all want to be there for him. They want to do what they can, and they feel like they can't. And so a lot of people are suggesting certain things. And I had a conversation with my mom about this morning. I was like, they mean well, and I know they mean well, but you can see they're projecting their own fears onto him by needing to spend more time with family, make these memories, this and that, which is more affirming his fear of what he's going through and the pressure that comes with it. And him just not being able to be him, and he's going through chemo treatments and this and that. And it's like, why? I get that you guys love him and you want what's best for him and his family, but let's focus on the vision. Let's focus on him waking up, him surviving this, him overcoming it, rather than fueling the fears that he's dealing with and the pressure that comes with that burden of being that person that everyone's worried about, afraid for, and cares about. That's not an easy position to be in. And that's one of the difficult things that I've had to deal with, is it's easy for me to go through, the shit, so to speak. Like, I can deal with any amount of pain. I've done it willingly through my BMX career. I wanted to do tricks so bad that I would, go through whatever amount of pain I had to go through to do it. But the pain of my family and my friends that care about me is not something I want for them. And it's easy to let your own fears and insecurities project onto those going through it. And so my advice goes back to, doing the best you can to be conscious of what energy you're putting into your words, what energy you're putting into your actions. And this transcends any conversation specifically that we're having right now. But that's the best piece of advice I can give is try to audit what you're feeling and then what you're thinking to say before you say it. And it may come from a place of love, no doubt. But oftentimes it's also a place of insecurity of our own that we're projecting onto others. So again, it's easier said than done. And my biggest challenge wasn't going through the injuries, the surgeries, the treatments, and this and that. It was more so what that was how that was having effect on the people I cared about that were worried about me. And that's not something I want for them. So I've taken on this role of creating an identity that I wanted to live by that would help me get over or overcome the circumstance. And again, it's easier said than done, but that's the best piece of advice I can give for anyone looking from the outside in is think about what that person you care about is mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, energetically going through. And if your words are going to add to that or if they're going to relieve some of that. And oftentimes it comes from a place of love. It's just a matter of how you frame things and how you word them.
Yeah, the discussions were around, what kind of treatment will give how many years guarantee. And it's not a single isolated case. I see this happening to many cases where, the discussions are around, these timelines and the cost. And you put a very important word, burden. That word is the first thing that triggers in the mind of the patient. That's what I felt. And that's it, the patient has already given up on those lines. So I'm able to relate to these things and what could be done better. Of course, the language that we use, the energy that we put in really matters.
Yeah, and there's no quote unquote right or wrong.
No.
And that's something that I've come to learn is to take away the judgment and try to do your best moving forward with the learnings. And it's easy to go back and reflect on, I could have done this better, I could have done that. But that's life, and this was really real for me. A little over 3 years ago, my younger brother passed away. And for a year I was depressed, and I learned I was making his death about me and what I was feeling and the guilt I had and the fear and the anger and all those things, because I was like, I was the bigger brother. I should have been there for him. And I was reflecting on so many times where I was overwhelmed and stressed and starting my business and transitioning from BMX and athletics to business and coaching and speaking and writing. And I was times where I was so stressed. I was like, no, I can't hang out. I got to do this. And how I wish I had those moments back. And it took me a while to rid myself of that and to really embrace the what I believe is we're only always doing our best with the resources we have available to us at the time. Our mindset is the biggest resource we have. And oftentimes the learnings come afterwards. And that's a big reason and purpose behind my actions and my intentions in life is because I want to give people the tools, the skills, the knowledge, and the experiences at least from viewing through my world, my life experiences, how life can be optimized moving forward without having to suffer or to go through catastrophic events as I have to have learned these things. And I believe the reason I had to go through those things is so I could find my higher purpose in life, which had nothing to do with my bike. It had to do with what I was putting into my bike and what I was putting out to the world. And I want people to learn from my experiences and to live the most fulfilling life they can from a healthy and happy perspective without, and that's not to say people aren't going to go through hardships and challenges, but in my mind, I want to equip people, especially the younger generation, with things that would have served me in a more empowered manner if I had known them then than I do now. And it took me a while to get rid of that thought of like, oh, this could have been done better, especially with my career in BMX. Just learning how to regulate my central nervous system around thoughts and what I was feeling and how that influenced behavior. But at the end of the day, we are where we are, and we're on the path. The path is set out for us perfectly based upon if you believe in God, universe, spirit, source, energy, whatever you believe in. It's designed perfectly for where we are. And the more we embrace that and we try to do our best to see things from a place of love and clarity now, we can pour that into other people, and the less judgment we have of ourselves and our past actions, the better off we're going to be moving forward. And that's a big proponent of why I do and share and have these types of conversations, because I've been through a lot. I'm only 33. I just turned 33 years old. And I've been through a lot, and I've learned a lot, and I want to pass that down to other people that may be successful in this area, or maybe not, or whatever age. It doesn't matter. I want to be able to share what I've learned and experienced in my own unique way, so other people can, live life from an empowered state of being, rather than feeling like we have no control in life. I understand that, but having more of a sense of control in the moments of how you at least present yourself to the outside world, whether that means your friends, your family, strangers, or however you show up.
When you are going through all these things, how did it occur to you that you could be this new personality that you created, to move your thoughts from not away from BMX, but then think on, authoring a book, or taking these strategies and giving it up as a coach? This is another format altogether. How did it occur to you, and how did you go about doing it? Did you take help, or how did you do it?
So the spark of inspiration for wanting to help other people, it started with my own experiences, and then that led me to finding nutrition and health optimization through my own circumstances of the brain tumors and injuries, and then that led into, I blew up my knee a couple years later, and then I learned about the importance of fitness and proper fitness depending on what your goals are in life, and again, learned the hard way. And then I entered a coaching program to be certified as a holistic health coach, and was introduced to Deepak Chopra talking about the spiritual side of life, and that was a new concept for me to grasp, because where I come from, my friends, my family, that was not something we talked about much.
No.
And that opened me up, and then being open to that, later down the road, I found Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Nicole LaPera. Even Jim Carrey speaks a lot about this
yes, he does.
information, and then building all of that into a coaching practice. The final element of that was coming across someone named Kerwin Ray, who's out of Australia. He's a business coach and performance specialist. He's, how would I describe him? I love describing him as, you take Tony Robbins and you take Gary Vaynerchuk, completely different people, but you combine them. That's Kerwin Ray to me, because he takes the spiritual self, he takes consciousness and unconscious behavior in business performance and relationships, and talks about love and manifestation, the science, and he puts it into one package. And I resonate with that. So there's been a lot of what I call virtual mentors in my life. Some I've had the pleasure of meeting, like Dave Mira, who is, like, for those that don't know, in BMX bicycle freestyle, he's like the Michael Jordan of that sport. So very inspiring to me. He paved the way for people like myself and my generation to pursue BMX as a career. And then Kerwin Ray has been a big inspiration to me, and mentor and friend. But then, I've never met Jim Carrey. I've never met Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've had conversations with Dr. Nicole LaPera. But these are people I resonate with on some front or a lot of fronts, and I've consumed what they put out into the world, and that's what led me to being inspired to do the same in my own format, with coaching, with podcasts, with writing. My first book's about to come out next year, and developing my nonprofit to help people with similar situations that I've been in, and taking the burden, financially speaking, at least, away. So had a lot of influences, and I've taken from all of them, and I've made up my own style. And same thing I did in BMX. I had a lot of influences of riding styles, and I just created my own based upon what I liked and what I enjoyed and what resonated. And at the end of the day, I've put that into my message and my truth to help people from my perspective, with my own genuine take on what I can do to help support people on their own path.
You have thought about giving more from the experiences that you've had, giving more to the whole world. And that is selfless act, I would say. That's how I see it. And I truly applaud you for this.
Well, I appreciate that. And there's a word I was taught years ago called ecology. And it was, the basis of it is when you set a goal or an intention, or you go after a dream, or you're inspired to do something, ecology is what allows us to audit, is it good for self? Is it good for society? And is it good for the planet? And so it's taking away the one component, or the singular component of self, and it's, is it good for self? Yes. Is it good for society? Yes. Is it good for the planet? Yes. And that's what I try to do my best to audit my intentions moving forward, to make it more about me. And the word selfishness, I think, has a negative stigma attached to it. And from my learnings and understandings from the various people I mentioned, to be selfish is important to understand where that's coming from. Because if you look at it like you're sinking in water, to be selfish is to focus and be narrowed on self and survival. Many of us don't even realize we're living in survival mode. We're stressed to the T, or whatever you want, whatever influence you want to bring in stress from. And so it comes to a point where, yes, you have to be focused on self to get your head out of water and look around and see what's going on, what's possible. And the further or the closer you get to land, and then once you're on land, and we're speaking in a metaphoric sense here, once you're on land, then you can start to open up to how you can be on purpose to serve others. And that actually brings up the very important influence in my life. My good friend Isaac, he presented this concept of off self on purpose, and he shared the background with me. And I'll leave that to another time. But I guess the bottom line of that phrase, off self on purpose, is auditing. Are you showing up to be on self today, or are you showing up to be on purpose of helping other people? And there's an important distinction that one has to make in that phrase. Oftentimes, it takes being on self to be able to open up the idea and possibility of being on purpose to serve others. My journey was 6 or so years of being focused on self, because I was conditioned from a young state of being in a stressed survival state of being. And it took the brain tumor, it took the second diagnosis, it took the radiation, it took the surgery, it took the injuries, it took living off my younger brother's couch, it took being broke, all these things, and depressed, to better myself and to seek out the path of bettering myself. And in that pursuit, I was opened up to, there's a higher intention for my life here. There's these opportunities, these experiences I'm going through, to learn how I can utilize them to help other people. And then when Isaac and I met in the start of 2018, he presented that concept, off self on purpose, to me, and it clicked. That was right after I received a third brain tumor diagnosis. I stopped competing. I transitioned away because I felt like there was something more for me. Him saying that made so much sense of my past and gave me so much clarity and confidence moving forward, because it taught me that oftentimes we have to be dedicated to improving ourselves as the main purpose. And then once we get to a place where we are inspired to look at other opportunities to serve the society we live in and the planet at large, we're able to do that because we now are equipped with the energy, the resources, the tools, the knowledge, and the experience to provide other people with the same, or whatever the purpose is you have set forth in your life. But you have to start on self. You have to get yourself out of the water, because if you're drowning, you're not going to be. It's like the oxygen mask analogy on a plane. Yes. They say put the oxygen mask on first, so that way you can help other people, because you're no good passed out.
No.
And if you're constantly feeling like you're drowning and you're sinking, you can't even fathom trying to help another person, because you're not in a position to do so. And so I think it's important that people understand that it often, if you don't feel like you have a purpose in life, your purpose is to be the best version of yourself, because that's going to transcend into other people. And in that pursuit, you'll find a higher purpose. And that's what BMX taught me. That's what brain tumors taught me. And that's what everything I've experienced, I believe, has taught me. And that's what I do. Why I do what I do is because I want other people to know it's okay to be selfish to a degree. You have to get yourself out of that survival mode, because you can't fathom the energy and the bandwidth to help other people if you're yourself struggling to get your basic needs met as a human being.
I am able to relate to this thought process, because we lose the balance between what you say, being selfish to survive and to be selfless when you're out of the mode. This is the balance that we miss out. Doesn't matter where we are in a normal work scenario. Also, when we are doing our daily activities in a corporate world or something, we miss out this balance. Terribly, we lose the focus terribly.
And society conditions us to do that, especially if you work for, any type of job. It's like, here are your tasks, this is what you need to do. Here's deadlines and things like that. And, you look at social media, and that's relatively new to civilization, and how that's conditioning people to think they got to be working harder. They got to look better. They got to be doing this to be and this and that. And it gets so overwhelming. And at the end of the day, it's like, You have a choice of what you do moving forward. And it's unfortunate that that's the conditioning we have going on in our society. But thankfully, to people I've mentioned, and I try to be a vehicle of that myself, is understanding the message of, you need to help yourself before you can help other people. And that society conditions us is bad. It's negative. It's negative to think about yourself first. You're selfish if you do that. You need to be, otherwise you're not going to have the capacity to think about other people, and at least in a manner from love. It's going to be guilt and shame feeling that, and then you're going to create resentment for that, especially if things don't go the way you want in your life. Then you're going to build up all this toxic negative energy, and then that's going to pull you further down the hole. And in my belief, that's where it leads to victim mentality and the phrase, well, it must be nice for them to experience that life, or it must be nice for that. And, or why me? Well, they get to do that. I can't. I'll never do that. Like, all that stuff comes from not taking care of yourself. And it's just, it's unfortunate, but that's why I do what I do. That's why you do what you do, and why we're having this conversation is because we want to bring love and light to the world and allow people to understand it's okay to be on self, because that's where it starts to get on purpose. You have to take care of yourself. Again, you're no good drowning or passed out on a plane. That you're no good to other people. So you have to be focused on self. But there's a fine line there. And I think that's what's missed. It's like you said, it's like that balance. But if your basic human needs aren't being met, you're not going to feel like you're capable of doing other things for other people or an organization at large.
Totally agree. Now that you are coaching, are you coaching individuals or corporates, groups? How are you approaching?
Yeah, I've done a lot of everything you've mentioned. I've done group coaching. I've done corporate workshops. I still do various amounts of those. Lately, because of the book and the nonprofit that I'm working to get launched, I've just been focusing on one-on-one coaching. Obviously, I'm 3 months out of brain surgery as well. So now that I'm fully recovered and I feel good about taking on more opportunities, I actually just had a call this morning with a friend about doing some speaking engagements and some corporate group coaching and workshops, things like that. So, I love doing them all. I personally love the most is working one-on-one with a client, because I find, we have all the time dedicated to what that person wants to create in their life. And we together figure out what's potentially holding them back and what skills sets they need, what belief system, like whatever we need to tailor a plan of action to create that ideal vision for their life that they have. But that being said, working in a group setting, it's a great place because you can offer your services at a smaller rate. You can help people at large, and you can, if one small thing can land with every person in the room or on the Zoom or the call, whatever it may be. If one thing can help shift their perspective, then that's going to create a ripple effect. And they're going to share with others. They're going to see the world different. They're going to show up differently. So neither one or the other is better or worse than the other, because each one-on-one has its benefits, and it's with negatives, if you want. And then the group coaching or the speaking, workshops has its own benefits and challenges there. Neither are better or worse than the other. So it's just, in my mind, I take every opportunity I can because it furthers my potential of reaching more people, thus changing more lives, and by doing so improving the world and society as a whole, rather than what I used to think is like, I need to get my needs met financially, so I need to work with, do all these things, and then I was running out of bandwidth and energy. So so today, right now, it looks different than years ago, and it'll look different tomorrow. So I like to just do what I can. Having these conversations is another great tool that I love to utilize. Is I say yes to any opportunity I can to at least speak my truth, have a genuine conversation, and see where it goes. 'Cause in the day, that one thing, like for someone, they like, oh, I see life differently, or I see a past experience or a current experience differently, then I've done my job, and then that can fall to moving forward the way it's done for me.
Thinking of career and so on, the challenges that they face, the younger generation especially. What would you suggest as to how they could go about identifying their career path?
Do stuff. Do as many things as you can. I was fortunate enough to have a lot of various experiences. Something I didn't mention is I went to a technical high school, so it's like a trade school in America, to where you can go. You can be a what's a cosmetic hair specialist called? Cosmetology is the class, but like a beauty specialist. You can be a dental hygienist. You can be a welder, a landscaper. Whatever you name it, any type of trade, so to speak. And so I got exposed to a lot of things, and then I played a lot of different sports growing up, and I ultimately landed upon something I was really passionate about, and then I wanted to do that. And I was fortunate enough to have parents that allowed me to walk away from school to pursue that path, because the drive and the hard work ethic and the dedication that I showed them and the responsibility attached to all of it, they believed in me. So anyone that's trying to figure out, and I get this question a lot from younger kids especially, what do I want to do? My teachers and my parents are putting this pressure on me to choose something.
Exactly.
I don't know what I want to do. And as long as you're living under a house that's, your bills being paid for by your parents or something like that, you're not an adult. You have to do things upon their terms. But what I tell people is, especially the younger kids, is just to try everything. Do whatever is interesting to you, and that's easier said than done depending on your home condition, your home environment. But at the end of the day, you're not gonna. And this, so let me complete this. At the end of the day, you're not gonna know what your favorite thing to do is unless you've tried it and you've been exposed to it. So experiment, try new things. It's like your favorite food. You don't know it until you've tried it. There's tons of foods out there. There's tons of opportunities to make a living today, especially with smartphones and things like that. So there's just get creative, but you have to try things and you have to see what works. Now, the challenge I have with being 18 years old, and I'm going by an American process of this. You're 18, you graduate high school, and you're told to pick a career that you want to do for the rest of your life. Go to college. You're at 18 years old, you still have about 6 to 8 years left of your prefrontal cortex to fully develop. And so at that age, you haven't been on your own. You haven't experienced life without having people take care of you. You don't know who you really are. You don't know what you really enjoy. You've just had a lot of influence into your subconscious mind and telling you need to do this. Society saying you need to do that. And now social media, bombarding you with all these things to be successful. So you have no clue what you want to do. And thankfully, I landed on something at a young age that I felt a desire to pursue. And I had, various things that I was doing to make money. But I just think it's absurd for this amount of pressure from society, at least today, in today's world, to tell an 18-year-old, what do you want to do? Pick something you want to do for the rest of your life, go into massive amounts of debt, and we applaud them. But then if an 18-year-old, is like, I don't want to go to college, I want to start a business, then we're like, oh
no,
I don't know if that's going to work out. And that's a projection of one's past limiting beliefs and their own experiences. So at the end of the day, you got to abide by the rules that you're living within, if you're being taken care of and your parents are providing for you. But the best piece of advice I can give is, within that construct, just to try as many things that are appealing to you. Read stories. Like, I love reading people's journeys and their stories of how they came to be this person that we all as society look up to, and just learning what they did, what they overcame, and ultimately, dissecting that into what I can do. And, Dave Mira was the first person that inspired the path I set foot on, in the BMX sense. And then I mentioned other people that have come along the way, and I've pivoted multiple times in my life. And I'm barely into my 30s. I'm still young. And I know a lot of people, get scared about age and all that, but I have a lot of life to live. And that's the way I see it. And so, anyone that's struggling to find a career path, I just don't think you've experienced what that thing that you want to do is, and just try things, and to know it's not going to be the rest of your life, or at least believe that there could be other things that could come up and, spark your interest. For me, I was set on BMX, and I was going to do as long as I could, and then just get a traditional wage job. Then a brain tumor happened, and then I got inspired by health and nutrition, and then fitness after I blew up my knee. And then the mindset came last for me, but it was there the whole time. I just was unaware of the learnings. And then I dove into human psychology, and I still do for 6-7 years now. and understanding the mental and emotional aspect of being a human and identity and all those things. And so, as we pursue the things we enjoy in life, we get open to other things that we didn't know existed because of what comes along that pursuit. And it's like going to hike a mountain. You have a destination in mind, but then maybe you find an interesting trail and you're like, oh, this looks like a waterfall over there. I've never been to a waterfall. So you go experience a waterfall. And then getting back onto the path, you have a different experience. And that's life. I mean, you just got to have as many experiences as you can until you find things that interest you. In today's world, you can make a living at pretty much anything you want to do.
Now that one, is set foot into a career path or so, what do you think will be the key challenges one should be prepared for?
So I think, in a general sense, because we could go very, many different ways with this in the micro, but I think challenges moving forward in any sense could just be the unknown and the fear that comes with the unknown, because it's not known. It's not something you've experienced from a physical, mental, spiritual sense. And so just understanding there may be obstacles along the way, and accepting that's life, and accepting that life happens for us, not to us. That's a choice to believe in that, but it's an empowered choice to believe that life happens for us. And so what one could do to combat that is create challenges every day to overcome. For me, that's the gym. That's exercising. I have learned to love exercising because of all the benefits. But one of the most important things about creating any type of routine that you have to dedicate energy to is you're creating an obstacle to overcome on a daily basis. For me, that's the gym. I love that aspect because it's a mental exercise to overcome that challenge I'm creating for myself. So when outside of my control challenges present themselves, I can overcome them. And I actually wrote about this the other day. And I think that that's something that can help build up that resilience and the mindset to overcome any challenge. So again, it's a general question that depending on where we go in this career path of that, I don't know the challenges because I'm not in those careers. I just know the unknown is the thing that freaks people out the most in any aspect of life. So understanding that challenges will come and accept that, but by creating your own challenges to overcome on a daily basis, whether it's 10 minutes or it's an hour, it doesn't matter. You're building that conditioned mindset to overcome obstacles and see them as an opportunity to learn and grow and to leverage that to benefit your life rather than being, paralyzed by that or thinking, why is this happening to me? Or, I'm scared of what could come from this. So I think it's just, creating that belief system that things are going to happen. Things out of your control are going to happen. We have no control in life, but we can choose to see them as learning opportunities and create our own obstacles to overcome on a regular basis.
Top 3 things that you think one must be aware of before making a commitment to any kind of change?
So I think the top 3 things that someone should audit before they commit to any type of change is, where do I start? I would suggest asking yourself, what is it I want to be true? What is it that is preventing me from what I want? And number 3, how do I bridge that gap? How do I learn the things I need to learn? How do I build the knowledge, the tools to get from point A to point B? It's really vague, but if you can start with those 3 questions and distill them down into your own personalized life, you'll find the answers. And so it's hard to put that into 3 because there's so many things that pop into my mind.
There's so many,
Here with those 3 things, I think is a great starting point.
You are now authoring a book and you are fundraising for that. What is this book about, and could you talk about your fundraising effort?
Yeah, so the book is titled Fear is a Thought, and it's my take on what BMX and brain tumors taught me about fear and how I leverage it to benefit my life and how to overcome obstacles and create the business I have started today and the life I live today. The Kickstarter campaign, it was designed to raise the funds to hire the editor and cover the cost of self-publishing. So the way Kickstarter works, it's a crowdfunding website that for every pledge someone buys or pledges amount of money, there comes a reward. So from the basic pledge or donation on, every tier at least comes with a copy of the book before it's released publicly. And then as the tiers go up, various different benefits come. So it just allows me to provide an incentive for people helping support my goals, my intention. And in this case, it's bringing the book to life. So by crowdfunding, helping me raise the capital to hire the editor and cover the self-publishing costs, everyone that donates or pledges gets a copy of the book at least. And then
Awesome.
Allows me to, take care of the biggest cost I have is the editor. And then after that, put it out to the world for public release. So there's different incentives. And one of my favorite ones is we're going to do, I forget the number, it's like 150, but a limited run of a completely different cover of the book that my tattoo artist is going to work with me on designing. And so they get a special copy of the book with a special cover that I'm going to sign. And there's other benefits that come with it. But it just allows me to raise the capital and then provide an incentive. It's almost like a pre-sale launch if you look at it like that. Yeah. It helps me bring my project to life, and then people become an early adopter of supporting the project.
Awesome. How does one contribute to this and support you? If they are listening and wanting to support you, how does one go about doing it?
So the project's titled Fear is Just a Thought. So if you go to Kickstarter.com and you type in the search Fear is Just a Thought, it should pop up. But I've been posting about it on my various social media outlets.
I'll flash it.
Yep. And then I do an update every Monday of where we are and letting them know how much time we have. So yeah, there's various different ways. I'm actually going to update my own website with a tab that'll go directly to the Kickstarter project website. So, yeah, there's many ways. The most direct is probably just go to Kickstarter and then type in "Fear is Just a Thought" or follow any of my social media links because I have them embedded all over the place.
How does one reach out to you if they need support or inspiration and such? And what kind of support are you providing to people, individuals or groups, corporates?
Yeah, so I provide various forms of support depending on if it's an individual, if it's a corporate team, or a sports team. It varies depending on what their needs are and their wants. So there's that. I'm active on all social media, so you can contact me with a direct message any which way. My website has a contact me page that goes directly to my email. So everything's pretty straightforward. And, I provide support in various different ways. Depends on what the person's asking for, what their financial situation looks like, and the time they're, looking for, and what it is ultimately they're asking for. So I often recommend a lot of free resources. I have my podcast, my YouTube channel. I create videos and podcasts of different things that help me and things I work with on my clients. Or I recommend a book from someone like Dr. Nicole, her book, How to Do the Work. Fantastic book. I think that's a great starting point for anyone that wants to create change in their life because it teaches you how to understand yourself and how to apply that moving forward. Or it could be, I have online courses and I do my own thing with coaching. So various different ways, but yeah, you can reach out on Instagram, LinkedIn, my website, whichever way. I check them all daily. So it's pretty easy.
Awesome. It has been a pleasure talking to you. Highly inspiring and motivating. 1 hour for me. Time is flown. Is there anything else that you would like to say to our audience before we take leave?
Well, I appreciate the time as well that you've shared with me. And, I know we had another conversation before this as well. So I just appreciate the time and the opportunity to share my truth. And the last thing I want to leave listeners with is it's a belief you have to create for yourself, but to understand that we all possess an ability to see beyond our circumstances. So depending on where your focus goes, that's going to create belief structures, and what you believe you're ultimately going to see present itself in your reality. And it takes time to change that. But if you can focus on shifting your energy to what you do want in your life, then that's going to create a whole different experience in a more pleasurable manner of experiencing that reality. And the more energy you give that and the more congruent action you take on your ideal vision for your life, the more you're going to see that time speed up until you have what you see in your mind, or you experience what you see in your mind. Easier said than done, but taking that consistent action on a regular basis, even just to move the needle a little bit forward every day, it's going to get you closer and closer to that life you envision for yourself. And so I just love letting people know, it's a choice, but ultimately you can believe in something beyond your circumstances and choose to be defined by what you see in your mind rather than what you see in your reality on a daily basis. And, there's a lot of potential that can come from that.
It's really amazing. This is so inspiring, and I'm so thankful for this session. Thank you so much, Josh.
Yeah, thank you. And then let me know if there's anything you want to chat about on the side, and if anything I can do to support you. And again, I appreciate your time, your love and support, and I'm really glad Elena connected us.
Thank you, Josh. This has been a truly inspiring session, and I wish Josh Hopperi all the best for his book and the fundraising for the book as well, and any future endeavors. From what he says, he puts it subtly, but I can understand that the concept of visualization really plays an integral role in change and visualizing the change we want in our lives, in our work, in basically everything that we try to deal with. The visualization technique is simple, it effective in a manner that it helps us stay focused on what we want out of our lives and start planning for it, start thinking on terms of realizing those benefits or the outcome. I'm so happy to have had this conversation, and I'm sure you also found something very interesting and useful to go back to. If so, please do remember to like, share, and subscribe, and also remember to share your comments. This is exactly how we are trying to understand each other and continuing to build this global community of change makers. Signing off from the GLAC studio, this is Gomathi Sankaran. Bye-bye.